Colonel Rob Maness has a lifelong record of providing dedicated service to this nation. Having worked his way up from the enlisted ranks to full colonel, he served our country for more than 32 years. He has served as a bomber squadron commander, bomb disposal technician, Joint Chiefs of Staff Operations Officer, assisted the National Security Team with the campaign plan for the global war on terrorism. He authored the first theater nuclear war plan and served as the Vice Commander of America's largest airborne intelligence wing. Colonel Rob Maness is a true American hero. This is Rob Maness Live.
Americans deserve a government that works for them, not one that comes after them. The Biden administration's federal government reigned free for nearly 2 years without any oversight, expanding its overreach and providing opportunities for the government to be weaponized against American citizens. When we took the majority, both the House Judiciary Committee and the Oversight Committee uncovered a rife of unsettling instances of Americans being targeted by all manner of agencies. And of course, the IRS is no exception to that. And of course, the IRS has a very long and troubled history of going after American citizens. When two brave whistleblowers came forward about the inconsistencies and attempted cover-up for Hunter Biden, they faced retaliation from within the IRS. And they're not just targeting people that are exposing government misconduct. They're unjustly targeting everyday American citizens, too. In Chairman Jim Jordan's own district in Ohio, an IRS agent gave a taxpayer a fake name to gain entry into their home and threatened to put a lien on their house and freeze her assets if she did not give the IRS a substantial amount of money. You can't make this up, and it's an unfortunate reality in our country today. Government agencies are supposed to serve we the people, not we the government. The bureaucracy, unfortunately, is being weaponized against us. One of the great things, though, is I think we've been able to shed light on this conduct and these behaviors, particularly from a civil liberty standpoint. And since we've uncovered these unsettling actions by the IRS, the agency has terminated its decades-long practice of unannounced visits to taxpayers' homes. We no longer have to fear the IRS agents' unannounced visits in an attempt to harass, intimidate, or coerce or otherwise target American citizens. I think this is a huge win for our taxpayers and for our country. We will continue in our job in the Judiciary Committee and the Oversight Committee to put an end to the IRS and other agencies in their targeting of American citizens.
Welcome back to Whistleblower Wednesday. The Rob Maness Show's live on Worldview Tube and our X Spaces simulcast. A weaponized Internal Revenue Service still exists, folks. That's right. I know what you just heard. The weaponization of the IRS is still happening against Americans even today. We saw in the Obama administration how he weaponized the IRS against conservatives. He spied on who? A Fox News journalist. You thought I was going to say Donald Trump. Well, I am going to say Donald Trump when he was a candidate. This guy sued nuns over birth control mandates in the ACA. He spied on Trump's campaign. He lied to Americans about the Benghazi debacle. Armed cartels resulting in the death of a border patrol agent. And his CIA spied on Congress. And I'll say it again, then candidate Donald Trump. Biden hired 87,000 more armed IRS agents to go after more average Americans. And his IRS targeted whistleblowers in the midst of testifying to Congress over a return, that's right, a tax return of that whistleblower that was accepted by the IRS. You cannot make this stuff up. Today, we're revealing more targeting under similar circumstances that's happening right now. Well, the CEO of Worldview Tube, Brandon House, is my guest today. Brandon is an author of more than 16 books. He's a senior media chief executive who's led groundbreaking efforts such as launching and operating Lindell TV with Mike Lindell. His documentary films are world-renowned. He's a legendary Christian and family radio broadcaster, and his venture in digital broadcasting here at Worldview Tube is breaking new ground in the independent media ecosystem every single day. Brandon, welcome back to the Rob Maness Show, and I might add, he's my friend and the boss.
Great, great to be with you. But no one is your boss other than your wife. But great to be, we're partners. We are broadcast partners, but great to be with you. Thank you.
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Hey, look, let's just dive right into this. This is Whistleblower Wednesday here on the Rob Maness Show, as you know, and you're blowing the whistle on something that's happening right now with the IRS continued weaponization. Brandon, what is happening with you? Can you walk us through the timeline of what's going on?
Absolutely, and thank you for letting me do that. And if people want the press release we put out a couple weeks ago, they'll find it at worldviewtube.com/IRS. worldviewtube.com/IRS. Now, I have a tax attorney, I have an accountant, and I have an accountant that I had with the same firm I'm with, but I have a new accountant with the same firm I've been with for years. All three of them said they've never seen anything like this. I even had my current CPA. She was with 20 CPAs just a week ago, 20 of them. She told them about what is happening to us, and they said in our entire career, none of us have ever heard of the IRS doing this. So what has happened? In 2021, we paid, as an organization, we paid our payroll tax. We paid our payroll tax.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very large sum when you have a big, a good-sized organization like we do. Mm-hmm. My accountant called and said, "Here's what you owe, and I'm trying to pay it online, but their system's down. I'll try again tomorrow." He called me and said, "Their system, the IRS system, is still down. We cannot make the payment online, and therefore I want you to overnight a check." So I did just that. I overnighted a check. Okay? A few months later, we get a letter from the IRS in the mail saying, Logan, the dog just pulled down my computer. A notice in the mail from the IRS saying that you owe us $43,000. $43,000. Why?
Wow.
Because we overnighted a check to the IRS versus paying online. But we couldn't pay online because their system was down. So we appealed it. And we got a letter saying, "We're abating this. It's abated. Don't worry about it." Guess what? A few months later, we get a letter in the mail saying, "You now owe us 47 some odd thousand." Went from 43 to 47. Wow. And this was 2 years later. 2 years later. I'll make that clear in case I misspoke. They abated it, and then they waited 2 years and came back and said, "You owe over 47,000 down." And we're like, "Wait a minute. You abated it, and here's the letter." We got another letter from an IRS agent when we appealed it, stating, "You owe no taxes, no penalties, nothing for this tax year. File closed." That was last year. Okay. In early 2025, we get a new letter saying, "You now owe over 49,000 with interest." Mm-hmm. It was abated twice and reversed every time. So we appealed it again. This time I got an IRS agent out of the Midwest. She was very professional and thorough. And she went through the file and she's like, "You pay your taxes on time. This has been abated twice." She said, "I don't understand this. I've never seen this." And she said, "Can you get your accountant to sign a letter under the threat of perjury that the system of the IRS was down for 2 days and he couldn't make the payment, thus you had to overnight a check?" I said, "Yeah." So we did. She put everything together and she went to her supervisors and said, "This needs to be abated for a third and final time." She called me, I think it was July 3rd. She said, "Mr. House, my supervisor refuses to abate this. And the only way to move forward and keep appealing it is you have to pay the over $49,000. So I said, "Okay, I'll pay it. Let's do it online. I want to stop the clock on this number going up."
Right.
The IRS system, Colonel Maness, is so archaic, so outdated, so foolish, that if that IRS agent had not stayed on the phone with me, I would have never been able to give them the over $49,000. She and I sat there and guessed at what the IRS has as my organization name. We went off the tax return. Well, that makes too much sense, doesn't it? Well,
Right.
let's see. They're asking for our EIN number. We put that in. They're asking for other stuff. We put that in. What's the name of your organization? Well, we went on with what's on the tax return. That just makes too much sense for Washington. I didn't like that. So we had to sit there and guess at how the IRS has us listed. She guessed, I guessed. Finally, she got it right. And I'm like, how did you know that? She said, well, I'm just guessing like you are. I said, I don't want to say too much of what she said because I don't want to get her in trouble because they can go back in and look and see who she is. This woman was appalled, absolutely appalled as an IRS agent because she knows this is wrong. She's from middle America in the Midwest. She's not in the swamp. But accountants, 20 of them that my CPA was with, as I said, have never seen the IRS abate something and then change their mind. And they did it to me twice. And you know what I find out when I talk to members of Congress about it? They're disgusted, but they tell me the same thing.
Yeah.
We know the IRS is corrupt, but you know what most of them are admitting to me? There's nothing we can do about it. The agency is so big and so powerful, members of Congress have no control over the IRS. There you go.
Yeah, it's very difficult to get control over any bureaucracy, and that particular one has been quasi-independent, much like the Federal Reserve is, and the Federal Reserve's not even part of the government, really. But the IRS being part of the government has almost the same level of independence. Has your accountant ever run this file by like any retired IRS agents or any of that kind of activity to get their take on what's going on?
Well, not that I'm aware of, but my gal, she deals with the IRS on almost a daily basis. This is a big firm. This is a big firm with 25 offices. And she is on the phone with them almost every day. And she's been doing this a long time, like 25, 30 years. She said, Brandon, somebody is messing with your file. And it's not just this organization. I have another one. I have another organization that for probably 6 years, someone inside the IRS keeps changing the type of organization. Someone's going into the IRS computer and actually changing the type of organization that we are, thus impacting the type of paperwork we file.
Right.
Again, my accountant before this one, who's in the same firm, said, I've never seen this. Someone's messing with you. Now, my friend Annie Cyrus says that a couple years ago, there was a fatwa put on my organization by some of the Islamic group. A fatwa, an economic fatwa to damage my organization.
Is that because you're Christian-based?
Because we're Christian-based and because we spend so much time exposing Islam and Iran and Hamas. And she says on the air the other day, she said, I didn't know she was going to say it. She said, I believe, Brandon, this is the fruit of the fatwa that has been put on economically on you and your organization. And there are, I believe, she says, this is her opinion, and she's almost always right. She said, I believe there are Islamists in the IRS that are fooling with your file. Well, if it's not Islamist, it clearly is deep staters of some kind. And I'm not even telling you everything and putting out publicly everything because it's much worse than I'm even telling you as far as what they're doing.
Well, we got to take a commercial break, sir. When we come back, I want to continue this conversation. I think it's very important that the audience and in larger part, the American people understand that organizations like Worldview Tube are still being targeted by the Internal Revenue Service. They may not be showing up at your door with armed agents, but they're showing up with unannounced letters that are conflicted and causing contradictions and causing a lot of money having to be spent just to appeal it. We'll be right back with Brandon House, CEO of Worldview Tube.
journalist behind the Twitter files says the IRS paid an unannounced visit to his home. Listen to this. Matt Taibbi claims he was testifying in front of the Select Subcommittee on the Weaponization of the Federal Government when the IRS made an unexpected visit. So, was he targeted? Kelly O'Grady is live in our West Coast Bureau with the details. Hi, Kelly.
Hi, Aisha. Well, that's the question, right? An unannounced house call already raises eyebrows. The IRS's own website shares most contact is initiated through the mail, but on top of that, the timing has many questioning the real motive. So the visit would have taken place on March 9th, strangely right in the middle of Taibbi's testimony on alleged government censorship. In a letter to House Judiciary Chairman Jim Jordan, the journalist claims an IRS agent left a note requesting he call 4 days later. He was later informed his 2018 and 2021 tax returns had been rejected over identity theft concerns. So regarding that 2018 return, Taibbi asserts the filing was in fact accepted over 4 years ago. As for 2021, Taibbi says it was rejected twice despite his accountant using an IRS-provided PIN number. What's more, he claims the agency has admitted the inquiry is not monetary related. So with these issues surfacing the day Taibbi testified, critics are demanding answers. Chairman Jim Jordan sending a letter last night to IRS Commissioner Werfel and Treasury Secretary Yellen calling the circumstances incredible. Quote, in light of the hostile reaction to Mr. Taibbi's reporting among left-wing activists and the IRS's history as a tool of government abuse, the IRS's action could be interpreted as an attempt to intimidate a witness before Congress. Taibbi tweeting this, I don't want to comment on the IRS issue pending an answer to Chairman Jim Jordan's letter. I'm not worried for myself, but I did feel the committee should be aware of the situation. Now, the Select Subcommittee now demanding the IRS hand over all communication regarding that House visit. The deadline to do so is April 10th. No comment yet from either agency, but Aisha, some are saying this is another example of free speech being targeted.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. It's Whistleblower Wednesday here on Worldview Tube, and we're blowing the whistle on that organization. And you just saw their real-life intimidation of a journalist testifying before Congress. That's mafia, mob-type behavior showing up to intimidate you at your home while you're right in the middle of testifying. It reminds me of a gangster movie, and my guest today is CEO of Worldview Tube, Brandon House, who is world-renowned for his role in bringing new media into being and operating it, like Lindell TV and our own Worldview Tube network that this show is on today. And Brandon, do you think there's some intimidation level going on with you because of your role in bringing the truth to the American people?
Absolutely. 100%, Colonel. 100%. And the fact that this is so egregious, so outside of IRS rules and regulations and behavior is stunning, that even when you bring it to members of Congress, not only are they not shocked, but they basically, again, tell you there's probably nothing we can do about it. I mean, we're to the point where many of these agencies now are running on their own. And as we well know, the president doesn't even have control fully of his own government. Like he didn't in the first term, he certainly doesn't in the second term. It's getting better. He's getting some good court rulings, even some from the Supreme Court. But we do not have separate and equal branches of government. We have, in fact, a whole nother shadow government that has no accountability whatsoever. You see, what Congress should do is they should subpoena whoever this supervisor is and bring them before their panel that oversees IRS and say, now, why, if you had an agent out of the Midwest who's saying this is ridiculous, this is crazy, it's been abated twice, you're fining a guy for overnighting a check. I mean, the IRS agent out of the Midwest said, Mr. House, you do understand that this $49,000 plus they want is not because you were late on your taxes. It's because you paid with a check. You are aware of that, right? I mean, she was so appalled, she wanted to make sure I knew it. And maybe it's because I was being so nice.
Mm-hmm.
Because in our conversations, and we had more than one, we discussed that we're both dog lovers. We love our dogs, what kind of dogs we have. We discussed other things while she was looking through my file. And when she called me on July 3rd, she actually said to me, I'm shocked at how nice you're being. And I said, well, why would I not be nice to you? You have tried to advocate for me. She said, I know, but I'm just shocked at how civil you're being. I said, well, I am a Christian and I'm a Christian broadcaster. Okay. So I'm trying to act like that. But again, it's not personal to you. You were trying to advocate for me. But she wanted to make sure I knew that this was not because you paid your taxes late. It's because you pay with a check. Because I guess she expected me in that first conversation to be more irate and yelling and carrying on. Yeah. And she's like, maybe he doesn't understand what this penalty is for. No, I'm like, I'm very aware of what it's for. And there you go.
And just to be clear, when you paid with the check, you were not late.
No. She even says to me, she says, we received your check on X date. She's going through the file. And she says, I see when your check arrived, the day it arrived. And I said, but what's the problem? Because there's an IRS rule that says if your payment is above a certain dollar figure, you must pay online or you will be penalized. Well, number one, I didn't know that. I'm not so sure my CPA knew that.
Yeah.
But three, does it really matter? Because you couldn't pay online. It was the height. I want to remind everyone, this was 2021. It was the height of COVID. Everyone had run to their basements. No one was answering the phone. You could not get the IRS on the phone.
Right, yeah.
We have whistleblowers that told us here in the Mid-South, the IRS here in the Mid-South was shredding tractor trailer loads of tax returns.
Oh my
shredding
goodness.
them. They couldn't keep up. They couldn't get caught up, so they shredded them. My CPA says she had clients who had to refile their tax returns and write checks again. Because even though they had confirmation that they'd sent them out, the IRS destroyed everything. So they're like, oh, well, we can't keep up. Sorry, we'll just shred everything. Well, try that with your taxes. I'm sorry, I can't keep up with all the receipts and everything and documents, so I just shredded it all. No, this has got to stop. The IRS can't pass its own audits. It's been weaponized. There's no accountability. This is the very definition of slavery. I'm sorry to announce, Americans, we did not outlaw slavery in the late 1800s. Slavery is still actively running today, and every one of you is a slave. You are a slave to a federal government that is out of control, out of bounds, doesn't even follow its own laws and rules, has rules for thee but not for me, and cannot pass its own audits. You are a slave.
Yeah.
I am a slave. Slavery is very much alive and well in America. And when the IRS doesn't like something, they just say, we don't care. We're the IRS. What are you going to do about it? And members of Congress are afraid of them. And members of Congress, most of them, know that in the end, the IRS is going to do whatever the IRS wants to do.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I ran into a case just a few weeks ago of a good friend of mine. I see him on the street, and he's opening a piece of mail, and he shows it to me, and I go, "Oh, that's a big check. It was to the IRS." He goes, "No, this is a copy of the check I sent the IRS, but look at this check, and it's the same check, but the to line has been changed. Somebody intercepted it at the IRS, changed the check, deposited it, and then the IRS is calling him saying he hasn't paid his taxes." That's the kind of stuff that's going on with these bureaucrats.
Are you trying to tell me the IRS hires criminals?
That's the only place that it could have happened. You know,
Shocker.
I mean, these tax return envelopes are unique and everything. So, I mean, my goodness, they're hiring criminals is one of the things that's going on. Do you have any hope that the Trump administration is going to make any headway on this at all, Brandon?
I am in communication with someone high up in the Trump administration. And they are like, what? And they're like, you're going to get a phone call. You will be getting a phone call from someone in the IRS that's going to be paying attention to this file and helping work this out.
Mm-hmm.
They called. I was on the air. They left a voicemail. They left their 800 number. And you sit on that 800 number for hours. So we have their ID number. We know this individual's ID number, but we cannot reach them because the IRS won't answer their phones. And they're not answering them in a timely manner. You sit for hours. And then sometimes they actually tell you, we're too busy, call back later. That's very common when we try to reach them. We have too many people trying to get a hold of us. You call us back later. Click. This is your federal government. This is the inefficiency of your federal government.
Well, yeah, it's incredible, especially when you know that this particular organization especially holds all the cards. It's got its own court system, its own law. You don't have the same rights that you would have in a normal court. And those kind of things. You don't have the right to discovery that in a normal way. You don't have a right to even be able to really adequately defend yourself. And the deck is stacked against you.
Let me ask the average listener today. If you had to cough up $49,000 to the IRS, just out of the blue because you paid your taxes with a check versus online, how would that impact most of you? Right?
Yeah,
right?
that would break
how would
most
that
people.
How would that impact most small businesses in America? And now you wonder why more and more young people hear these stories and say, there's no way I'm going to become an entrepreneur. There's no way I'm starting a small business. Who wants to deal with that headache? Just go get yourself a job. You know?
Yeah.
I'll tell you.
Yeah.
We even had these people send us a letter saying, you didn't file your tax return for, I can't remember what year it was, but it was after 2020. I called my accountant and said, I know you did, but what's the deal? So we call the agent. We call the agent that happened to be in a Mid-South office here. So we were actually able to get a hold of that one. And they're like, yeah, we have no tax return for you for that year. We're like, well, we filed it. You cashed the check. They called back later and said, oh yeah, we actually found we found your tax return in our system. First, we had no tax return for you. Now we have it in our system twice.
Wow.
We had zero tax return for you. So we're knocking on your door. But, oh, wait, I'm sorry. Now we see we have it actually twice. But here's the kicker. Here's what they said. Can you have your accountant send that tax return over to us, though, please? And I said, well, you just said you have it in there twice. Yeah, but we can't open it and read it. I said, what? They said, yeah, that's not uncommon. We can see it's in there, but we can't open and read it. So it's not uncommon. We asked for the CPA just to send it over to us. Like,
that's scary. That's scary because with scam callers and scam things, you never know who you've got on the other end of that.
That's exactly
that line. Really, be honest with you.
That's exactly
although
right.
you should. Well, we got to take another break and run a commercial. But when we come back, I want to talk some more about this with Brandon. Dive a little bit more into the details about the way he filed the taxes and why they're changing the status of the organization. That's really puzzling. We'll be right back. It's Whistleblower Wednesday, and we're blowing the whistle on the IRS. They're still at it, folks. They're still at it.
What we have learned is that the IRS, in fact, has been using AI to access bank accounts of American citizens without any kind of a search warrant or even without any specific claim that they have committed a crime. So this was something that was discovered by an undercover journalist, and what they found is that the IRS has claimed that they have access to every single person's bank account. This person also indicated that they've been working with the Department of Justice and that they have absolutely no problem whatsoever going after the little guy to make sure that they are paying their taxes. This is such a blatant violation of the Fourth Amendment that Jim Jordan and I sent a letter to the IRS demanding that they provide additional information about what they are doing with AI and what they are doing to protect the civil rights of American citizens.
Welcome back to the Rob Maynard Show. It's Whistleblower Wednesday, and we're talking with the CEO of Worldview Tube, Brandon House, today about his experiences with the weaponized IRS, and it's continued. The last call he had was on July 3rd of 2025, 6 months after President Trump took office again. And Brandon, you know, the president celebrated 6 months in office yesterday, and there's this huge, long list of successful achievements based on what he ran on and everything. But then we keep hearing stories from different parts of the bureaucracy, like this one, like yours. You know, do you think that, you know, Obama's IRS was targeting like Tea Party groups because they were going after the nonprofit status and everything? And I don't know exactly how your organizations are organized, but is that a parallel? Is what's happening with you maybe a parallel to that or a continuation of that?
And I do, absolutely it is. Now, the one that's being penalized is a for-profit company, the one that but they've also come after my nonprofit. But we're a church. My nonprofit is actually a church. We actually hold a Sunday night church service where I'm teaching now through the book of Revelation, verse by verse. I've been running a Christian ministry like this for years, and so the IRS is very clear when you go to the PDF of what is a church and what is the status of a church, because the IRS doesn't say to someone, you're a church, you're not a church, you're a church, you're not a church, because that would be a real problem under the separation of church and state. Right. So thankfully, due to our U.S. Constitution, churches have a lot more freedom and flexibility. But they were harassing our organization, our foundation. What we're dealing with now is our Worldview Tube, our for-profit corporation. That's who they're going after now. And maybe it's because I have you on our network. I'm just going to assume that's the problem. It's because we have you on.
Well, you started having me on after the first problem with this happened. Just to go back to the timeline a little bit.
Okay.
You know, it's just a little bit over a year.
Okay, that's right.
I'm smarter than I look.
Yeah,
I'm smarter than I look, Brandon. So yeah, there's possibility that's there. Is your nonprofit organization the one where they've been switching the status?
Yes.
Without
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you think that?
And here's the thing: my accountant is saying we need to audit your file because every time someone touches your file, they have to log in. So we'll know exactly who's been going into your file. But if we have someone that's pretty high up, she said, maybe they don't have to log in. But there should be a fingerprint of every person touching my file so we can see who it is that is doing these things to us. But if they're high enough up, question what we would have to ask is, does everybody that touches the file have to log in so we can see it? But Congress should be finding who these people are. They should be calling me. I have offered to testify before any congressional committee on it. My CPA wants to testify if she can get approval from her company. And they should be subpoenaing every person that has been touching this file.
Yeah, absolutely. But it begs the question, though, listening to you talk about the file and doing an audit on it, I wonder if the IRS has a secret filing system like we discovered that James Comey's FBI has, where it's unknowable. It can be filed as an unseeable piece of data.
Exactly.
only seeable by certain individuals at the very highest levels, and anything else doesn't even show up on their search engine systems internally in the FBI. Wouldn't surprise me if the IRS has a similar that. Would you?
I totally agree. I totally agree. Now, I appreciate all the clips you're playing by these people. But isn't that always what we hear? We sent a letter. We sent a letter. We sent a letter. I want to know where the hearings are. I am tired of the acts and the circus by Jim Jordan and what's the other guy? Looks like he's got a muskrat on his head. What's his on Sunday nights over at Fox News? What's his name? Trey Gowdy. I'm tired of all these shenanigans and circuses and shows. Yeah. Okay? I know it's great for fundraising, but it's not solving the problem. I want to see subpoenas and people dragged before congressional committees and the tough questions answered why this is going on. Look, I am not a tax protester. Do I like our progressive income tax system? No, I do not like it. Do I find it to be unconstitutional? Yes, I do. But do I pay my taxes? I actually overpaid my taxes last year. Okay? I overpaid them. That's what my accountant has told me. You actually overpaid. Great. I tell her all the time, overpay. Because I don't want any trouble. Okay? And I said to the agent out of the Midwest, I said, do you not have people in power there that have the common sense that you have? I said, you should be highly promoted in the IRS. And I know her name and I could say it, but I don't want to get her in trouble.
Right.
I said, you are so professional and so common sense. Why are you not in authority at the highest levels of the IRS? We need more people like you. But I'll tell you.
Where was her? Do you know where the supervisor is located?
That's what I want to know.
Are they in the swamp?
I want to know if they're in the swamp or are they sitting in some Islamic dominated city in Michigan or Minneapolis? That's exactly one of the questions I wanted to know. And by the way, I said to this lady out of the Midwest who was so distressed by all this, I said, what would the penalty have been if we waited for your system to come back up and it had been a week or two? What would the penalty be? She said, that's a really good question. She said, I should ask this supervisor. Well, what would you have penalized the man if he had waited a week? Because our system was down. But he overnighted a check to us to get us our money. And I said to her, does your supervisor not understand I have a big mouth and a big platform? And is it worth $49,000 that you've evaded twice to have me go on national radio and television on 74 Christian stations and on my own network? Do you really want to pick a fight with a guy that buys ink by the barrel? From a common sense standpoint, wouldn't it be, hey, we've evaded it twice. We should stand behind that. Because otherwise, the IRS, folks, you can't trust them. Okay, you cannot trust anything they put, even when they put it in print. You can't trust it anymore.
That's right,
and that's what they're telling everybody. Number two, it's already been evaded. Number two, he was trying to be honest and right and pay on time, and he overnighted the check because your system was down. So yeah, that's on us, not him, and that's why it was abated the first time. But then it was reversed. Then it was abated a second time. And then it was reversed again because common sense people who got a hold of it did the common sense thing. They abated it the first time. Then the second person said, well, we can't undo abatements. So obviously we have to abate it and be done with this.
Right.
Only person that would keep flipping the file is someone that is in pretty high up and it's political.
Yeah. Is there a process to audit your file that your accountant knows about?
That's what my accountant is asking for. She's asking for what is the process to have his file audited so we can see everyone that has touched this file. Why don't you call us in to your Mid-South office with our tax attorney and my CPA and print it out on the paper in front of us and show us everyone that's touched this file. And we want to know, have they done this to other people? Are they politically active on Facebook? on Twitter, on social media? Are they tied back to Islamic organizations or Black Lives Matter organizations? Is this someone inside the agency that is not being apolitical?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. We got a question finally from the live audience. I was wondering if people were just being quiet because they don't want to talk about the IRS and out themselves, but we do have a question over there for you. Shell, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Hello, Brandon. It's very nice to see you. Hey, we have a lot of people that scream abolish the IRS, right? Do you think that in the future, and hopefully the near future, we'll ever see that behemoth of an organization dismantled, sir? And how would we go about that?
Well, that's a great question. And I know the Colonel has a thought on that one too. But I would, we have, Bassett has said, or maybe it was Lumnick, the Commerce Secretary, said something about President Trump wants to do away with taxes of anyone that makes $250,000 or below. Hey, I'm all for that. But there's also been talk of an external revenue service with tariffs versus an internal revenue service. That's the way our country has been funded for so many years prior to the creation of the Federal Reserve in 1913 and the progressive income tax system as well that followed. So we need to get rid of it, and we need to go to doing this with tariffs. But if they're not going to do it with tariffs, then I think we need to go. Now, I know some friends of mine who are members of Congress, the Republican Party, who are not in favor of this. We need to go to a national sales tax. They say that if we do that, we're going to end up with a value-added tax, like in Europe, plus your income tax. And now you're going to be soaked like twice. And I'm like, well, why can't you write the legislation that says you can't do both? You can only do one or the other. I have members of Congress that are friends of mine that are afraid if we open the door to a national sales tax, they're going to end up with both. And we're going to be wishing we'd never done that. Well, again, I'm not an attorney, and I don't know why you couldn't write the legislation, though, that you can never have both. But if you did a national sales tax, you would encourage savings, and you would be grabbing up all the unpaid taxes from the prostitutes and the whores and the drug dealers and all the other illegals and people that are here as well. Look, I put into a Grok the other day, how many strip clubs are in America? Now, I don't know if it's true or not. Grok says there's over 4,000 strip clubs in America. And then it said that was like a $4.2 billion annual industry. Seems a little high. Goodness. And now I don't know if that's true or not. But let's just assume strip clubs in America is $1 billion a year. $2 billion a year. How much of that you think they're paying in taxes? You think those girls are dancing on the poles, taking visas? Think they got some kind of card reader strapped to them, taking their tips? No. You think they're buying the booze if you're in a state that allows to have strip clubs and booze? You think they're buying booze with credit cards? At the strip club? I would highly doubt it because they don't want the little lady back at home seeing it. So my guess is they're going in there with cash, which, hello, IRS, that's a lot of money. How are you auditing the strip clubs of America? Because I'm sure you have some agents who would love to volunteer for that job. I don't know. Maybe some of your agents are stripping. Maybe some of your agents are stripping at night down there. I don't know. I'm just asking.
Now you went somewhere I never expected you would go. We got to take one more commercial break. That's a good one. But when we come back, I want to dive into this, the vaunted bureaucracy. It's not just the IRS though, because we've got some breaking news that happened just before the show started. I want to get Brandon's take on it a little bit. But the real problem is the vast bureaucracy. Some people call it the deep state. I call it the administrative state, the national security state. And they are opposing not just Donald Trump, they are opposing you and me, the American citizen. And they're Americans too. So they're violating their oath to the Constitution by operating in opposition to us. And that's what's going on. We'll be right back with Brandon House, CEO of Worldview Tube.
You woke up with a sore throat and a low-grade fever. You know you are getting sick, so here's your choices. You can get sicker and miss work, Try to see a doctor this week or sit hours in a crowded waiting room at urgent care.
I have a smarter option for you. Open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to doctor-recommended prescription in your booklet and take the right meds now and get well faster.
This is not a first aid kit. It's like having an urgent care in your home. It includes doctor-prescribed medications to treat over 39 medical issues like respiratory infections, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, and more.
No waiting to see the doctor and no standing in line at the pharmacy. It's right here.
Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Go to worldviewhealthcare.com. Your kit to treat dozens of common and serious illnesses is rushed to your door. worldviewhealthcare.com. That's worldviewhealthcare.com.
The emergency kit available at worldviewhealthcare.com. Make sure you don't have to go to urgent care. I got pneumonia. I didn't have to go. I took this last year. Stayed at home. Went to bed.
Explain what you want to do with the IRS.
Well, you know, one of, again, the most alarming things was to see people that were actually angry talking about the fact that we wanted to remove a lot of those 87,000 IRS agents. What people are failing to realize is under this current administration with Biden, they're going after people, a lot of times people that have to have second jobs to really afford what's happening right now currently with inflation. And so when I made that comment, I think it's really just basic in that with the IRS essentially has become weaponized against the American people. We don't need to be funding more of it. We need to reallocate that funding and focus elsewhere. And so I actually stand by that statement. And I thought it was interesting how many people got upset and went to the defense of the IRS. So look, if you're all for the IRS and funding it, please feel free to pay my taxes.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. It's Whistleblower Wednesday, and we are blowing the whistle on the IRS. And I want to see the details of that program auditing the strip clubs. And my guest today is Brandon House, the CEO of Worldview Tube, world-renowned innovator in the media space, especially broadcast television and streaming television. He created Lindell TV and operated it for more than 3 years for Mike, and has created the Worldview Tube network that this show is has the opportunity to broadcast on every day, and we really appreciate it. And Brandon, you know, I just wanted to go into in this last segment a little bit about everything that's going on, because the problem that you're having is just a very teeny tiny example of this vast administrative state that was enabled by the income tax amendment to the Constitution, the U.S. Senate being changed from a state representing organization to representing voters in an amendment to the U.S. Constitution, both under the highly progressive Woodrow Wilson, who's the bane of America's existence today, in my opinion. Tulsi Gabbard, just before we came in, was in the White House press room detailing the traitorous activities, the conspiracy to overthrow a duly elected president of the United States in 2016 and 2017. I don't care what the squishes say. That was an attempt at a coup against a duly elected president of the United States and his government. And she has laid out the facts that I've been talking about since December of 2016, when I first got wind of that fake Russia intelligence community assessment. And I've been writing about it ever since. Just had an article published in AMAC this morning, as a matter of fact, going through, again, everything that us professionals that have been in the intel world said about that ICA, we have been proven right. They used fake information on it. It was entirely cooked up. Knowing all of those things, Brandon, how can, what can Donald Trump do with his appointees to try to at least start the ball rolling to get this bureaucracy put back into a place where it's operating as a public servant for the American people? Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I would think you could at least use some executive power, executive orders, to start really rattling the cage of the IRS. Sign some executive orders, and I would start with signing an executive order that eliminates all interest and penalties on every taxpayer, regardless of their situation. Give a blanket amnesty and pardon to all taxpayers of any outstanding interest or penalties. Wipe them clean right now from the books. And anyone, such as myself, that's had to pay these stupid penalty because I paid my taxes by check versus online, that we are refunded, that we receive an immediate refund within 90 days, or the IRS will have to pay you 100% interest a month until paid. We need executive orders that show we're not playing games. But start with a flat pardon on every interest and penalty payment across the board. They're all wiped out. Okay? And then we need to have some kind of symposium or hearing at the White House where President Trump brings in CPAs like mine and brings in people like me. And let's tell the American people the truth. Because if they don't, I've threatened that what I'm going to do is I've already reached out to a group of CPAs and asked them if they would be willing to do a symposium ourselves and let the CPAs come forward. We'll hold our own, quote, congressional mock-up hearing. And I'll get me a gavel, and I'll pretend to be the chairman, and we'll hear from CPAs and taxpayers, and maybe we should broadcast that out there. Because I'll tell you something. My accountant has multiple examples. One, she said she has a guy here in Tennessee, and he has a water restoration company where there's been water damage, and his vans will go and take care of the problem. Right. He runs down to Georgia and takes care of water damage. Writes off his equipment, hotel, fuel, all that. No problem. He's doing business. But when the same company goes to deal with water damage in St. Louis, the IRS agent said he can't deduct his fuel and lodging and equipment use and whatnot. And she's like, what are you talking about? You're going to allow him to deduct standard business deductions in Georgia, going from Tennessee to Georgia, but not Tennessee to St. Louis. Yep. And so we need to have the end of this arbitrary decisions by agents who are making it up. And when those people are found to be making it up, President Trump needs again to sign an executive order. Those people are fired on the spot. They are terminated, and anyone that has done that can be documented, done it, is terminated immediately. You follow the rules. With computers, you ought to be able to see this, and you ought to be able to know they're making decisions that are outside the guidelines of the IRS. You're terminated. But she said this is one of many stories she could tell. Oh, and by the way, I asked Grok again, how many strip clubs? 4,038 with $4.2 billion in 2025, some figures at $7.7 billion. Put in a national sales tax, and you'll be getting your taxes on that $4.2 billion. But then again, there may be too many IRS employees at the strip clubs. Maybe they're sidelighting at night.
The other thing you're pushing against is the president just signed a bill eliminating taxes on tips. If those things are called tips, some of that stuff in those clubs may be called tips. It may be off limits, even with a national sales tax. Somehow, it sounds like the deck is stacked against Christian organizations and in favor of hedonistic organizations.
Doesn't it?
And I know we're joking about it, but that's what it seems like to me. Not just necessarily Christian organizations, but organizations that are trying to do the right thing. I mean, look, isn't it a sign of tyranny in a government when the IRS folks can not go by the tax code, but if you and I use people to prepare our taxes so that we don't get caught inadvertently and unintentionally violating the tax code. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
And you see the dichotomy in the treatment of the citizens who are trying to do the right thing versus the all-powerful bureaucrat that can do whatever they want. That's tyranny by definition.
By definition. Yep. So I ask you, Colonel, why are more members of Congress just interested in writing letters? Why are they not interested in actually doing something? Why do we have such an inept Congress, particularly on the Republican side? I mean, Mike Johnson apparently adjourned yesterday, a day early, not coming back till September. I mean, is he afraid of the Epstein story? Is he not a man of courage?
I think he said something to the effect, well, we need to give the government the space to do what they need to do. And I was talking before the show with the audience in our little pre-show that we do, that the Epstein thing, to most people that are Trump supporters that voted for him, the Epstein thing isn't about the Epstein himself. It's not even necessarily about the client list. It's about the two-tiered justice system, and that's what I just described with the IRS, where the government people with the power can do whatever they want. But if you step out of line outside of that tax code, you're going to get hammered like you're getting hammered, and you didn't even step outside. They're just making it up and saying you stepped out of line. Yep. So that is what people are concerned about with the Epstein thing, and I think the Obama revelations from the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, now to finally uncover the truth about that Russia hoax intelligence community assessment that I've been saying was fake all along. The first time I read it, I spotted it because I worked in the intelligence business. I've read hundreds of these things, helped write them and everything, and I know the rules. And you could see, it was obvious to the casual observer that was a professional in that business that these guys faked this. They muddy up the president and really to overthrow that government and prevent it from doing it, because their goal was probably to get Mike Pence in, who would bend to them. Okay, and that's why you have a Congress that is captured. Is what's going on, Brandon. These Congress people are captured by the money they have to get and raise to keep getting reelected. They're captured by their fancy parties that they want to make sure they get invited to in Washington, D.C., and they're captured by the fancy parties in society back in their home state that they want to keep in good graces of. And they don't give a damn about you and me. Matter of fact, most of them won't even hold a town hall meeting because they're afraid of us. I don't know why they're afraid to take questions from their citizens that vote them in. I mean, a lot of people work very hard to get folks elected. I mean, Mr. Trump, I've seen him hold town halls with the people. I've been at one. I was invited to one with the people that worked his campaign and raised money for him and, pushed his ideas. So what's wrong with the rest of them? They're cowards, and they want to stay in power, and they see the way to stay in power is to keep obeying their money interest and their ideological interest instead of doing the right thing and actually holding people accountable. Now, this Obama thing with Brennan and Obama and Comey and all the rest, if somebody's not going to trial, that's going to be a major problem. And they think they've got a problem with the Epstein thing. This is going to be a lot bigger by 100-fold.
Well,
because
you are
American
saying the
people
same thing.
are not going to put up with this if the right thing is not done.
You're saying the same thing I said on radio. I said to my guest I was having on, I said, look, I don't know if this is a Hegelian dialectic process that the deep staters are throwing at us, thesis and antithesis, idea, opposite idea, conflict, to result a third option. But I said, when you throw out all this information, which I'm glad Tulsi's done, you throw out all this documentation and document what we know to be true. We already knew this, but now it's documented.
Now we have the facts.
And you don't do anything? I said, what do you think is going to happen? Okay? You're going to have more people become apathetic and passive. And sadly, many on the right will become apathetic and passive, and they won't go to vote. Maybe that's the objective. Because many people quit voting on the right after the election was stolen in 2020. Because I know people that said, I'm done. It's all rigged, right? So maybe the left will be energized, and the right will stay at home. Or you throw this information out, it's validated, and all you're going to do now is you're adding fuel to the fire, and you're giving no pressure cooker release. You know, your mom used to cook with an old pressure cooker, and you release the pressure. Yep. Well, you're just baking and baking and baking and baking and piling on fact after fact after fact after fact, but nothing gets done until that pressure cooker pops, right? Because there's no release valve of justice. Is that what they want? Is that what they want?
I don't think anybody wants that, but that's the risk. That's the risk.
I don't want that.
Yeah, I don't want that either. Thank you very much for coming on. We got to keep fighting this. We'll get the word out and everything and get our episode out there, and I'll tag the president and Scott Bessent and let's say, hey, you got to get something done for us, the little guys out here. Thank you very much, sir. Tomorrow's Truth Thursday on the Rob Maness Show, and another military service member being harmed by these draconian unorthodox, unlawful actions being harmed by vaccine policy in the U.S. military. We'll see you then on The Rob Maness Show.
Two years ago, whatever was 100% of my traffic to my website, it's been crashed by 95%.